Ready?
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Freese. I'm the mayor of Tonganoxie, and I'm calling to order this March 16th, 2026 meeting of the Tonganoxie City Council. Ms. Huntington, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Wilkie?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon?
Here.
Ms. Stevens is absent. Ms. Gruby?
Here.
Mr. Dale?
Here.
Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the meeting dated March 2, 2026. Does anyone have anything they need to say about the minutes, or perhaps a motion to pass it?
I make a motion to pass the minutes.
Second.
Approve the minutes is what I should have said. I apologize. Thank you both. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Third item on the agenda is the consent agenda, in which we review the bill payments from the previous period. They were listed in the packet earlier this week. Does anyone have any comment, questions, or are you ready to pass a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. What was that? Thanks, Ms. McCutcheon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gruby. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Nothing is listed under old business. Mr. Porter, did anyone sign up to speak tonight?
Yes, Mayor, we have Rebecca Davis signed up first.
Can I hand you guys a paper? Pass it around?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Before we get started, I forgot to say, you have a 3-minute time limit. It's a hard limit.
Okay.
So you have whatever, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Go.
Go.
Great. Hi, I'm Rebecca Davis. I live on East 2nd Street. I'm here on behalf of a Tonganoxie Data Center watchdog group. I didn't want what happened with Tyson to happen this go around, where the city council gets kind of blindsided with the big project. So basically, we're a group of citizens who want to bring awareness to a proposed data center that would go out on Tailgate Ranch. We're pretty sure that it would go on the very north part of it, which would butt up against the Hills plant. The main thing I'd like to do is invite you to the special session at the Leavenworth Board of County Commissioners meeting. Wednesday, March 18th at 9 o'clock is their regular meeting, and then immediately after there will be a special session to talk about data centers. So just some information, some of the concerns we have are related to noise pollution, heavy energy demand, lots and lots of water consumption, and that potentially could fall on the city, because it's my understanding in the package for Tailgate Ranch, for them, there's whatever sales package, it talks about this 500-acre plot of land having water access. I assume that would be from the city, so I feel like this is relevant to you guys to know about. Other concerns are air quality, diesel emissions when the backup generators come on. Limited local jobs, there'll be a big boom of construction that'll happen initially, but there's really only a couple dozen jobs potentially that are like long-term, and they're not necessarily high-paying. And then property value uncertainty as well. I put some information here, what we know. At this point, there's a lot of unknowns, but we do believe that Cloverleaf is the intermediary company that is working for the AI company. I've listed some information on that, but we're not anti-development. We just want good neighbors is the main concern. We don't want big tax breaks for corporate entities. This is going to rely heavily on local infrastructure, electricity, roads, emergency services, land, and especially water. The amount of electricity these data centers take, and water really, I mean, you can compare them to large cities. They are very thirsty and they're very hungry for electricity. And we're really just on the cusp of this new of data centers taking off. Like so far, Spring Hill has kind of stopped a data center. Osawatomie has a 2-year moratorium. Right now, Sedgwick County has a 90-day moratorium on data centers. So it's kind of the Wild West because there's not a lot of regulations. So I just wanted you to be aware of what might be coming down the pike your way. Everything right now is proposed, but I would just love it if you could come to the county commissioner meeting on Wednesday. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else signed up to speak? All right. We will move on to new business. Item A is a reading of the draft ordinance of e-mobility device policy development. Mr. Brajkovic.
Thanks, Mayor. So this item, while there is a draft ordinance for consideration and initial discussion tonight, I'll start by saying staff first will apologize that the draft was a little late getting into the packet. We had ongoing discussions, but it kind of rolls into, I think, a better scenario where this is still up for discussion. Whatever additional feedback we get tonight, we can redraft into a more final draft version and place it hopefully on the next city council meeting agenda for actual consideration. So tonight, what I'll ask is Chief Lawson and Ms. Kerstelik to kind of roll through how staff developed what's before you tonight and give you some of the details. I mean, it's a multi-page ordinance, but as far as policy considerations go, 5 or 6 pages, as you've probably learned along the way, is not that much. I did want to give a little bit of history here. So besides being aware of, you know, I guess e-scooters and e-bikes, e-mobility is kind of this new catchphrase that tries to incorporate all of these electrical vehicles or devices that we have. And so we first kind of talked about these back in our 2 city council meetings in December of last year when the city was looking at updating our standard traffic ordinances and uniform public offense code. And so we actually took action on STOs and UPOCs at that last meeting in December. But what happened during those 2 meetings in December was we got a lot of feedback from the elected body of concerns and things that are going on. Concurrently with that and kind of coming into present day, staff, a variety of staff between the police department, legal, admin, we've participated in Mid-America Regional Council where we've heard and participated with other communities. And it's a common problem. Or a common issue, I guess, and we're all trying to resolve it. What's kind of unique for Tonganoxie, if you think about it, if you go into maybe a more urban setting where multiple cities, or at least 2 cities, maybe multiple cities share boundaries, and so what happens if you ride your e-bike from one, I'll pick on my favorite ones to pick on, Leawood, and go into Mission Hills, and if the rules aren't the same, how do you determine what you can or can't do? So in Tonganoxie, where we're a little bit more confined to just our city, it's a little bit easier to draft something, and that's what I asked both Ms. Kerstelik and Chief Lawson to do, is to draft something from that perspective. What works specifically for Tonganoxie? I guess we've also been fortunate that, unlike other communities that have experienced tragic deaths, we've not had to deal with that component of it. So we've looked at other communities that had a tragedy like that, actually adopted a policy, and we're interesting to see that they're still kind of more on an educational campaign than they are writing citations or doing some strict enforcement. We've also heard from community partners, and I won't put anybody on the spot, about damage being caused to properties. And I think from a staff perspective, we've all kind of seen it with our own eyes. And probably the last liberty I'll take with it from what I consider to be part of the issue is we have underage kids that are doing this. They're just not aware of what the rule of the road are or is. And, you know, who doesn't like that freedom of getting on your Western Auto 10-speed and going to your friend's house, right? And so it's just a little different environment now. So, you know, I just wanted to give us that background to remember that this isn't just something that came up overnight. We've been working on it for a while, but with that, let me turn it over to Chief Lawson, wherever he went, and Ms. Kirstalick, and maybe they can kind of roll through the high points and what was considered as we drafted what's before you tonight for discussion. Thanks, Chief.
Well, thank you, council, and special thanks to, pardon me, I've had laryngitis for about 3 weeks. I'm still getting over it, but, so if I clear my throat or take a drink of water, I apologize. But thank you to Anna Kirschlick. She really worked hard on this. Her and I have been kind of collaborating little by little about what we kind of want to want to do on this. So I'll roll through this relatively quickly. I think that one of our first discussions were, I'm going to call them e-motorcycles, but just for the record, there is no definition in the state statute for e-motorcycles. But so when I say e-motorcycles, I think we all know what I'm talking about. Mini bikes, motorcycles, and they're ran by electric power. But for the technical definition, there is nothing in the state statute that mentions that. And so I think our first discussion, we were going off the 2018 STO for a long time. And in 2022, they redefined motorcycle is, and I'm going to paraphrase here, I'm not going to read it, but basically just a two-wheeled vehicle. It's not considered a motor vehicle. Well, excuse me, it is a motor vehicle, but a two-wheeled vehicle that's self-propelled. So they don't put gas combustible engine on it versus e-power or whatever. So I called the League of Municipalities, and they said, well, and I have had very strenuous discussions on this in a good way, that the state statute basically says right now you can't ride a motorcycle on the city street right now anyway by state statute. And I contact the League of Municipalities, the releaser, reviser of statutes for the state. And I think my biggest obstacle in doing that research, I'm like, what did the legislators have in mind when they redefined motorcycle from a gas-powered, so many cc, what did they have in mind? And really nobody could tell me. And their legal staff up there said, you are good, I believe, on enforcing an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old, riding a motorcycle on the street, whether it's e-powered or not. And Anna, if I say anything that you disagree with, Anna, feel free to jump in and just say you're wrong on that. So, because she's the expert. So I think we kind of overcame a lot of that. And what Anna and I have been discussing is that Anna feels like the state statute is pretty clear, and she's not wrong, it is. But what we get is a lot of street litigation where, show me where it is. It's not in city ordinance. And the standard traffic ordinance is very, very difficult to understand as for the layman. I mean, I have to look it up like, well, that's that. This is a motor vehicle. This applies to a motor vehicle. This subsection relates to that. So it's difficult. So I think one of the primary obstacles that we have in the draft ordinance is Ann and I are trying to figure out, are we going to list motorcycles in our ordinance as to include electric, even though that we presume that it's already like that with the state. That way our citizens aren't confused. We're not gonna, they don't have to look up a standard traffic ordinance to see if their child is in violation when they're riding a motorcycle. So I think basically these are not legal as the way it stands at this point, but the League of Municipalities told me you really probably need to put it into your ordinance so there is no ambiguity. And so you can be more liberal on a city ordinance, more restrictive, but you can't be more liberal. In other words, if the state says this, I can't say, well, you can do that in Tonganoxie. But we can say, if it's not unconstitutional, that you can't do this and we can shrink it. Does that make sense so far? Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so I'm gonna go, so with that in mind, Ann and I are still trying to plug away on what to include from the STO and basically copy and paste that into the ordinance so people are not going to be riding motorbikes on the street. One of the largest obstacles are you cannot give someone under the age of 14 a ticket. And so that's one primary obstacle that the STO says it, but our ordinance is going to say that a parent is held responsible for their child's actions if they're warned not to do so. So one thing I want to really make sure that council understands is that we are about education. We are not about enforcement. as I said in one of the last council meetings, we usually have as many warnings as we do every year as citations. So this is our proposed standard operating procedures, just so you know how we're gonna do business. We see someone in violation of an e-bike or a scooter or a motorcycle that is riding, we're not gonna tow the motorcycle, give an 8-year-old a ticket, give the parent a ticket, anything like that. What our mode of operation has been thus far is we'll call the parent, Mr. Lawson, would you please come down? Your son's down here riding an illegal motorcycle on the street. They're usually PO'd when they come down. We have a very, try to make an amicable conversation with them. You can't do this any longer. And what's good is when we run somebody on our police radio, whether it be the parent or whatever, our dispatch logs that Greg Lawson had contact with a police officer. So if that child becomes later on down the road and is doing the same thing and riding that e-bike or that scooter or that, whatever it is that they're not supposed to be doing, then we have a record and we can say, okay, we asked what happened. Well, he snuck out on it, we're gonna take care of it, it'll never happen again. That may be another warning, but if they just say, you guys were silly, I don't agree with it, then the parent can get a ticket for that. And I think that everybody that is my age or thereabouts knows, like, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, it's not called that anymore, but it's basically enabling your child to do something that you know is unlawful and that you've been warned about. And that will be our absolute last result. I mean, we enjoy a positive interaction with the community, and the last thing we want to do is make that worse or bad. Does anybody have any questions so far on that? Okay. So getting into the ordinance, so I'm going to go into this really quickly because you guys can read the small print later on before our next, council meeting when we want to do this. I just kind of wanted to give you all the definition of electric assisted bicycles. Now, these are not motorcycles. I think I covered that earlier. Motorcycles by the state, as we have said, we believe to be illegal right now, but we're going to try to nail that down in the ordinance. But electric assisted bicycles are bicycles that you see many adults riding down the street with, that they are pedaling, and there's different classes. So a class 1 is pretty easy to not have to worry about anything. A child can be on the street, an 8-year-old, because it's no different than a bicycle, except for it's assisted. It's no more different than a 10-speed. If they're going up a hill, the electric inertia is helping them get up that hill. Children are still gonna be able to allow to ride these kind of bicycles on the street without any problems. It's just when you come to the class 2, if you go to the next page, the class 2 is an electric assisted bicycle. It means it's an electric assisted bicycle equipped with a motor that may be exclusively conducted to propel the bicycle and is not capable of providing assistance where the bicycle speed exceeds 20 miles an hour. Now that to us is a problem because that's no different than somebody kind of beats the rap with the technicality. If we're not allowing children to be on the street with motorcycles, then these are the ones that, and we're not gonna randomly stop children and say, get off your bicycle, let me see what kind it is. It's gonna be if they're riding on the street recklessly and they give us some reason to believe there's an issue. And so the class 2 is probably no different than a moped or a motorcycle or whatever. And kind of circling back to what I've kind of said during, and my apologies to any old council persons or the mayor that's heard this before, but our primary concern is safety. We're not trying to be dream killers, fun killers. It's just that we're not wanting kids to get hurt. My 15-year-old, when he first started driving, as probably many of the people in this room, I sweated every time he got behind that wheel when he was allowed to get loose. I certainly would have never trusted him when he was 8 years old to drive a motor vehicle down the street and know that I'm supposed to, yield to the mayor when I'm taking a left and he has the right of way. So that's what we're trying to get through is injuries and God forbid death. The class 3 is basically the same thing, but the difference is it's an electric assisted bicycle equipped with a motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling. And so again, that's more like the class 1. That's a little bit more, acceptable because they're just not going down the street at 35 miles an hour without having to pedal. So those are the 3 classifications. I got a question from a council person or a citizen, I can't remember which, but they're like, well, what if my kid wants to ride to the pool on the sidewalk? It's fine. It's still gonna be fine. There's no law against Tonganoxie in Tonganoxie, riding on a sidewalk, unless you're on 4th Street, that's the only exception. In our business district, if someone's child is riding a class, not a class 2 down the sidewalk to the pool, it's fine. We're not gonna stop them, we're not gonna mess with them, we're just not wanting them in the street. And so, scooters, and I won't bore you with the definition, because we all know what they are. Whether they're at Walmart, they're motorized, they're electric. A scooter is gonna be okay on the sidewalk also. They're gonna have to wear a helmet, but they can't be on the street. You can be on the street with a scooter, you can be on the street with a bicycle if you are a licensed driver. And so if you're a licensed driver, you're fine. If you got a 17-year-old, 16-year-old that has a license, it's not a problem. They could be on the street. Our primary concern is knowing the rules of the road and taking a test to test your proficiency, like all of us have to do. So scooters to the pool, to school. I don't know what the school's policy is. I know they've been having a lot of difficulties with enforcing some things. That's kind of not our purview, but if they're riding at the school and they're not on the street, it's fine. Does that make sense? So essentially what we're after is the motorcycles that are e-powered. And again, they're not allowed the way it is according to the state. We're just gonna narrow that down and make sure that we completely understand our ordinance. Your class 1 and class 3, we're going back and forth, Ann and I, to see what the deal is on that. Basically, we just don't want class 2 like a motorcycle on the street. So we're not, and as far as parents, I can assure you, as all of you know, I grew up here, I have a relationship with many people here. The last thing I want is a bad community perception that we're out there giving parents tickets for kids riding something motorized in the street. This is for education, it's for safety. I can tell you that we've had 2 accidents in Tonganoxie with these things. Thank God nobody was hurt, but we had 2 accidents here. They had a death in Leawood, and they've had countless in Kansas City, Missouri, which I know is a completely different community dynamic. But this is all about safety. It's not because, and we get complaints literally, especially when the warm weather, when we had those I bet we had 6 calls. Get down here, get this person out of my yard. They're riding them through my yard. They're tearing up my yard, and it's just. So it's not that we're wanting the calls to stop. That's what we're there for. We just want to keep everybody safe. So I'll let you read those finer points. I would encourage you, and I would not only encourage you, I would ask you to please reach out to me. I think everybody's got my cell phone here, that if you read something versus, and feel free to ask me at the next meeting where we bring this up, absolutely. But if you have questions on this, call me and say, what does this mean? Exactly what are you trying to achieve here? Because I don't like the way this reads. So as far as, I think Ms. McCutcheon, at one meeting had said, what about parental supervision? We've made it where you don't even need parental supervision with any of this because they're gonna be allowed on the sidewalk if they're not a class 2 bicycle and as long as they're out on a motorcycle. So I don't think you'll see that language in there, and it's not because we weren't taking what you said to heart. It's just because they're not gonna need parental supervision by the law if they're riding those things on the sidewalk. And so, any questions on that? I tried to go as quick as I could and speed date out of this thing, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Council, do you have any questions?
How does private property factor into this, like school district grounds?
That's gonna be, so that's a great question. So if the school makes a policy that says, we don't want them on school grounds, they're gonna have a lot of problem with parking up there because a lot of these they're a full-fledged motorcycle and they're trying to get them in the bike rack, which they can't. So, the school is saying, we don't want them. I don't know that they've made a policy to that, but if they said, we don't want them on private property, then they would be able to enforce that, and we obviously have the SRO plugged in. We would tell the SRO, hey, little so-and-so, you can't ride that anymore. They don't want it here, but you will see in the ordinance, there's a lot of talk about public trails, like for instance, the way this reads right now, you're not gonna be able to go down to the park, in Chieftain Park, and ride that thing around on the walking trail, because it's a public park. You're gonna be able to ride it on the sidewalk, but you're not, around that perimeter, but you're not gonna be able to go down there and ride that on the skateboard park, the basketball court, the trails, anything like that. That's going to be prohibited.
As far as a self-propelled
Right,
unit.
right. Bicycle,
Not
the same deal.
not an
Right,
e-assist.
yeah, and
Right.
an e-assist, again, the class 2, as long as you're pedaling, it's a bicycle. And that's why the STO, the Standard Traffic Ordinance, actually dictates it's not to be treated any differently than a bicycle because you're just not able to, one of our city staff has got one, for instance. And I see him all the time, and it's a great deal because he saves gas and he just blows and goes, just puts on, doesn't pedal, whatever. Those are the ones that we're looking to have limitations on, things like helmets, things of that nature. But as far as a regular bicycle, if the park allows, I don't know, Anna, off the top of my head, did we prohibit class 2 in the parks? I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah. So that would be prohibited in the parks.
I have one question.
Sure.
So the class 2 is okay if you have a driver's license?
No, the
You
cla-
can
the-
ride those
Yes,
on
class
the
2,
roads?
yeah, you got a driver's license, you're good to go. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good to go. Now, one thing that we did put on these, that this may pop out at you, and this will be council's, obviously your decision, but because these things are capable of going 25, 30 mile an hour, even with pedal assist, we did mandate initially a helmet. And that is on scooters also. If you're gonna be on a sidewalk and you're gonna be sharing the roadway with pedestrians on a sidewalk, we did mandate helmets that anybody that's under the age of 18. And I think that's a good policy. That's in the STO with motorcycles or anything else. I think that's just good business.
Anyone else? I have a couple of questions. Are we covered with golf carts that are electric?
The golf carts are not even, we didn't even touch upon it. No, and I think we looked at that in the UTV ordinance back in 2020, 19, 20? 19, and those were prohibited back in 2019, 2020, or not prohibited, just not allowed, because they're not allowed by the STO unless a city makes an exception for that. But no, they're not. Golf carts aren't covered at all in here. No verbiage.
I had a super brief conversation with Mr. Eccles, who's here in the second row there tonight, about the possibility of the rec offering a class on traffic safety. Would the police be interested, and George, would you guys be interested in offering that somehow? I think Mr. Eccles' comment was, do you have someone who could teach the course? And is that something you'd be open to, or?
I mean, Mayor, we're always looking for community initiatives. We do a lot of that now, and I've never heard a bad idea about that. I would just put the preface, my humble opinion would be, I would have no problem in participating in such a thing and giving kids, general rules of the road on a bicycle what they can expect when they're in a vehicle, but I would not recommend that as an exemption to be able to operate any of these things that we're talking about.
Okay. And the VFW is private property, correct? Mm-hmm. And that would apply the same way as the school. If they didn't want them on the
Right.
property, then we
Right.
would enforce that.
That's true. And that would not be a traffic ordinance, that'd be more as a trespassing. So if the VFW called and said, we have some kids riding down here, we don't want them here, we'd say, you gotta leave, and if they came back the next day, then that'd be a trespassing type situation. It wouldn't be that they were in violation of a standard traffic ordinance because it was private property. Ms. Kerschlick put in there that private property, was part of this ordinance. But that's not like private driveways. If a kid was in their driveway or, in an area that the VFW did authorize it, say the VFW said, I don't care if they're right here, then that'd be different.
Okay. That's all I had. Ms. Kirstulich, did you have anything to add?
No, happy to answer any questions. I mean, this is the standard traffic ordinance that you've incorporated. This is printed on both sides. And so that's why we don't, the league prepares this every year and cities will incorporate it so that you don't have to have all of those laid out in your codes. You have this. And so that's kind of where we're at, is we're just deciding how much do we want to pull out of this and put in the ordinance so that it's clear, and that it holds together without doing too much harm to any of the provisions that are already incorporated. So, but yes, happy to answer any questions. Again, it's complicated. There are a lot of definitions about the different types of e-mobility devices, let alone motorcycles, motorized, that already existed. So just trying to make sure that that this ordinance covers everything the way that it's supposed to.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would just like to say thank you to both of you for working on this. I know it's been a big talking point for a while.
Thank you.
And I often think it's not just the kids' safety, that's primarily, but it's also driver safety,
Sure.
because it would be horrible to hurt a kid as well as, the kid getting hurt, so
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Chief. Any more on that, Mr. Brockovich?
No, Mayor, but like I said earlier, we'll kind of finalize this draft and hopefully have it available for the next city council meeting to where we can ask for you as a body to take some formal action on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Item B is consider approval of request to utilize Gallagher Park for a special event on July 8, 2026 for the reading of the Declaration of Independence. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. Just for everyone's information, we prepared an agenda statement, and this is a pretty brief presentation planned on this agenda item tonight, but I just wanted to give the council a quick update about your roles and responsibilities in regards to special event permits. So special event permits are governed under Section 33 of the city's zoning ordinance. There's a very long section that outlines all the different definitions, scenarios, permits required, permit exemptions. There's a long litany of things that are considered when we receive a request. This request would typically not come to the city council for your consideration because right now it's anticipated to occur entirely within the confines of Gallagher Park. This request was fielded in recent discussions with city staff and Chris Roberts, who's the director of the Tonganoxie Community Historical Society. You can see described in the agenda statement, the request is to conduct a public reading of the Declaration of Independence, timed exactly on the 250th anniversary of the first public reading in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So it's a pretty cool historic moment, and their group is very excited about offering this, even though it will be at 5 p.m. on a July afternoon, so it might be a little toasty out there. So a couple reasons why we're still bringing it for your attention. It's the first year it's been conducted. We don't currently anticipate the need for city services, street barricades, alcohol permitting, a host of other things that sometimes you are involved in. That could change, so we want to just bring it to your attention for that reason. The other is that the Tonganoxie Water Park is adjacent to Gallagher Park and shares parking and connectivity as sites. And we wanted to make sure it was on their radar, the seasonal operators of that facility, and then it had the support of the city council in the event that there were the need to make some hours reduction or other accommodation. Obviously, one thing that will be completed is reducing the level of noise from the water park facility to make sure that there were not people trying to read a document and people listening to very loud music across the fence and parking lot. So we'll make those accommodations as needed. But then finally, too, going through the special event process with the city does allow us also to advertise on the city's public calendar on our website, which we do for all permitted special events now. And we'd be happy to do that, website advertisements and others, if the city council wanted us to do that action. So for those reasons, we're bringing it to your attention. And again, I'm happy to work with the Community Historical Society as they move forward with this recognition.
All right, thank you, Mr. Porter. Are there any questions? If not, I would accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a special event organized by the Tonganoxie Community Historical Society on city property in Gallagher Park located in the vicinity of Main Street and Third Street on July 6th, 2026.
Thank you, Ms. Groby. Is there a second?
Oh,
I,
July 8th.
I would like to mention that it's July 8th, not the 6th.
I need to wear my glasses.
True historian.
Any seconds? A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Item C on the agenda is consider approval of request for donation of swim lesson passes for the Tonganoxie Education Foundation Give Day, April 2026. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to recognize Lisa Ballmer, who's here tonight with the Tonganoxie Education Foundation. She reached out to city staff recently and gave us notice of this request on behalf of that organization. As you're all familiar, the city council has in the past, and in our last meeting actually approved donation requests of a similar nature. In this case, the request is a total of 2 swimming lesson vouchers with a total value, if purchased outright, of $80. The budget impact is listed in the agenda statement for your reference. We also included a letter and an email correspondence with Ms. Balmer and her organization that outlines a little more detail about the background of the event and what it's intended to do. And I believe it's on April 3rd. Remember. Would you like to say anything, Lisa? You're welcome to come up to the podium.
Thank you. Yes, hi, thank you guys. And yes, swim lessons are great, or we are having one day to do a fundraiser for the Tonganoxie Education Foundation, and this is going to be funds that are going to be used to support teacher grants in the fall. Collectively, as an organization, we're able to fund about $20,000 on our own. The requests keep getting larger every year, so we're hoping to do this to kind of bring in a surplus of donations for funding grants. If swim lessons are awesome, also swim passes, like a family swim pass, something along those nature. We're going to be dividing the day up into 4 different segments of times to donate, and so these would be raffled off during those times, depending on how many donations we're able to get.
So was it your intent to, just for clarification purposes, to have passes for swimming lessons or season passes?
Either or, yep, whatever, yes, just anything. Right now, we have different things like, Gambino's Pizza, we've gotten Amazon gift cards, Yeti coolers, just any kind of variety. We're kind of grouping them together to just sort of keep momentum going throughout the day to have people give, and their donations, for every $5 that they're donating, they'll go into the bucket for that time period to raffle off these donated items. So whatever you guys are willing to donate is totally fine.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Council, do you have any questions? I have one. You guys go first.
I kind of want to hear your question first.
I was curious myself.
Okay. I would wonder if anyone would object to having swimming lesson passes and 2 season passes that they could raffle off.
I would not object.
What's that?
I would not object.
Okay.
What is the most value in your perspective?
This is our first year kicking this off, so I don't know. I really am hoping that this is kind of a learning year for us, and I'm hoping that each year to grow it. Right now, our hope is to raise between $10,000 and $15,000. We are having different businesses donate just lump sums to kind of sponsor those frames of time. I think next year I might have better answers for you, but this year is a learning curve. So I don't know what is going to be more valuable to families, if it's going to be the lessons or a pass in general. I could make assumptions, but that would just be it. I'm not sure.
And it sounds like that plan would be good.
I'll add, just going back through the minutes. Last session, we approved 2 swim lesson passes and 1 group water pass to the Genesis School auction.
1, 2, I don't,
1 season pass and 2 swim lessons.
And I could just add a reference too. So a season pass, the group pass is valued at $180 for an annual membership. Individual passes are smaller value. And then swimming lessons are at $40 a session for an individual participant right now.
does staff have any objection to upping the offer, I guess?
It's at the discretion of the city council. It's funded through our general fund, the water park, and as you all know, it doesn't return a profit or come close to that level. So every amount is just a slight addition to the work of the general fund.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you
Appreciate it.
guys, appreciate it.
If there are no other questions, I would accept a motion.
So are we good with 2 season passes or 1 season pass?
Your choice.
And 2 swim lessons?
Let's do 2 of each.
2 of each?
Yeah.
Wilkie says
Yeah.
2, Ms. Groby says 2.
Okay, I will make the motion to waive, this says the $80 cost, but that would be, the season passes were $180 each. So what's 360 plus 80? Come on, Jake.
440.
Give me your math brain. Thanks. I don't math, okay? So we'll waive $440 for 2 public swim lesson sessions and 2 season passes to donate to the Tonganoxie Education Foundation for use at the upcoming annual Give Day raffle in 2026.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Groby. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item D is consider approval of the Liberty Tree Program for Tonganoxie Public Library Facility. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for your awareness, the reason this request is coming to the city council is the terms of the library's lease agreement with the city for the new facility at 217 East 4th Street includes that any exterior modifications to the property come to the city for approval process. So that's what we're requesting tonight. This request is also tied into the 250th anniversary this summer of the various actions, and this program is described in more detail in the agenda statement. The group that's forwarding this request is comprised of the library board as well as the support from the Tonganoxie Community Historical Society. And what they're in essence requesting, as detailed in the materials, are installation of a replacement tree in the place of a tree located on the southwest corner of the building. So sort of in the vicinity of the handicap parking stalls near the front of the building and just to the west of that. There's a tree in place at that position that has been damaged by mowers and insects, and it looks alive from the street, but if you get behind it, it's about half dead. So the opportunity to replace a tree as originally planted and designed in the original design of that facility in 2019 is very appealing versus picking a new place with potential issues when it grows to full size that weren't managed or thought of when the facility was developed. There's also a plaque and a bench contemplated with this request, and those would be installed at a later date and obviously commemorate as part of this Liberty Tree program, the commemoration of the 250th year under this nation. So with that, staff don't have any concerns. The library did indicate that they're raising funds for this endeavor, so we can expect to see some outreach from them to the community and other groups. And so far, they've not asked the city to contribute financially, but just to make you aware of where the funding would come from. Happy to take any questions you have, though.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Anyone have any questions?
What is the 250th year? Like, what's the term for the 250th year?
I still can't say the other one.
Semi-quincentennial.
Oh, okay.
What's that again?
Semi-quincentennial. And I think from research we did on the proclamation later on the agenda, that's not a real word. It's a logical word for the words that mean, I think it's 500 and some other reference, but they basically made up a word for this celebration.
I like that.
Hope I explained that right, but
Any
Googling
que-
it doesn't really help. That's kind of the point I wanted to share.
Any more questions? If not,
I'll make a motion regarding approval of the request to make exterior alterations to plant a Liberty tree with a plaque under the terms of the city's public library facility lease.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item E on the agenda is to consider approval of request to purchase a flail mower for Public Works. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I won't belabor this item. We'll see that we have one quote collected. Tonight, we're here for the procurement approval, for a budgeted initiative included in our planning for the 2026 budget for the Public Works Department. We did pay for this expense in the general fund, so that's one of our strategic utilizations of fund balance in excess of our goals or minimums for that fund that was included in 2026. With this, as I noted, you will just see one quote. The rationale for that is our Bobcat mini excavator that this flail mower will connect to is only equipped to connect and integrate with certain Bobcat branded implements. So with that, we don't have alternative options, and any other Bobcat dealers are further away and don't offer better pricing based on freight and other considerations where they won't bid against their own company competition, basically. With that, staff's request did come in at a quote under our budgeted initiative level of $12,000, so we were excited to see that pricing. Just for your reference to the flail mower is attached to the mini excavator and helps us mow right-of-way, ditches, hard-to-reach, inaccessible areas. It's great to use a piece of equipment for this instead of city staff putting themselves in harm's way, manually doing some of this labor. And with recent terminations of agreements with the city and the county about maintenance responsibilities of roads that abut city and county boundaries, this kind of equipment is unfortunately needed more than ever because we've added new work to what was previously done by other entities.
So this is a new piece altogether. This isn't
we did not
replacement
have
of
a-
anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Happy to take any questions you have, but staff do recommend approval of the procurement as presented.
Anyone? Anyone have a motion?
I will make a motion to authorize the purchase of a Bobcat flail mower attachment from Bobcat for an amount not to exceed $10,046.36.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That's it for new business. We'll move on to city manager agenda, the February 2026 financial report. Mr. Brockovich or Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. So 20-page report. We're getting a little longer in the month of February, but we're still only about 16% of the way through our fiscal year, which aligns with the calendar year. I do want to point out a new section that we've added that is actually brand new in many respects. Pages 6, 7, and 8, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the report are reports on 3 major capital projects that you've seen either ongoing or you may have heard about in recent weeks. And we're very excited to see progress in all 3 areas. Page 6 is the Front and Ridge Street Improvements Project, which we've held multiple discussions with the City Council about recently, and work has really gotten underway in earnest last week and this week on site. If you've not driven by in that corridor, you'll definitely notice the work that's already taken place above and underground. You can see in the report that we're only about 88% of the way through the design, which was 100% done until we added the additional work on Ridge Street, and we're actually not up to any pay applications or expenses yet on the major construction contract, but that is underway, and the change order was approved last meeting. On the 14th Street project, we have made a little bit more progress. That's shown on page 7 of the report. We're about 15% of the way through the billing for the $600,000 engineering analysis and design work. This is on the heels of additional traffic studies that were completed last year in a separate matter. And then we are not yet in the construction phase, but anticipate that next year at this time, we could be in the position to have looked at the complete design and have those options ahead of us. So we'll be definitely planning in the capital maintenance and improvement plan efforts for next year and future years at this important endeavor. Surveying work is generally what's happened so far, and if you haven't had questions already, you may receive some of those in the future. People who are curious about the project, we've received some of those at City Hall, especially when surveyors are out near people's property or in areas they can be seen. And we'll continue to make an effort to do outreach and share information as we get it, and we're actually very excited as staff level to see what comes in next from that project. So making good progress so far with the good weather we've had recently. And finally, pages 8 and 9 outline the wastewater treatment plants improvements project phase 1. One thing we want to highlight, and it's highlighted on page 9, is the city spent about 56.5% of our total expenditures encumbered under this project for ARPA funds that were required to be expended in full by the end of the year. We're in March. We hope to be at the point of completion of utilization of those funds by no later than October or November, but that's a really key milestone, and we're pushing BG Consultants and the contractor working on the construction part of that project to stay on a timely basis with the planned improvements and make sure we're in compliance with the prescribed use of those federal funds. If the city were to not expend those on that deadline schedule by the end of the year, we would have repercussions, potentially including owing all those funds back, and we don't want to be in that position. So a very critical project, and one reason that you'll also see updates on a monthly basis on this project from city staff, as well as I think we're planning to require that BG staff come and address you periodically later this year to give you more updates as well on how they think the project is progressing. I don't really have any other key aspects of the report to highlight. Page 10 of the 20-page report highlighted a few items that have either recently been approved or funded or were done earlier this evening, like the flail mower, for instance. So we're making good progress on that 2026 initiatives list, and we're just continuing to focus on that as we already start also the effort of building next year's budget in the coming months. So happy to take any questions you have on the report, but that was the items we wanted to cover for you all.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Porter or Mr. Brockovich? Okay, thank you both, appreciate it. City Attorney agenda, Ms. Kirstelich, do you have anything? No items, Mayor. Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem agenda, she's absent tonight. City Council agenda, do you have anything you guys would like to add tonight? Okay. That brings it to me. I have a proclamation. It says proclamation recognizing significant anniversaries in 2026 for the United States of America, the state of Kansas, and the city of Tonganoxie, Kansas. And I'm going to read that now. A proclamation marking significant anniversaries in 2026 for the United States of America, the state of Kansas, and the city of Tonganoxie, Kansas. Whereas July 4th, 2026 marks the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Whereas January 29th, 2026 marked the 165th birthday of the state of Kansas, according the date of its admission as the 34th state of the Union. And whereas on July 21, 1866, the village of Tonganoxie was established with the signature of Magdalena Berry on the plat consisting of 40 acres of property that today is generally the area between First Street and 4th Street, and from Main Street to Green Street. Whereas on this important occasion of the Tonganoxie 106th anniversary, Kansas's 165th anniversary, and the United States 250th anniversary, the community honors its past, celebrates the present, and looks to the future. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that the city of Tonganoxie hereby proclaim 2026 a year of celebration and urge all citizens to join in celebrations of these milestones. Do we need any action on that, or is that so said, so proclaimed? On the second item on my agenda is we have an executive session for consultation with an attorney for 10 minutes, I believe. Mr. Dale, do you have that?
10 minutes. I move that the city council recess into executive session to obtain legal advice regarding a potential request for annexation and related matters pursuant to the attorney-client consultation exception in KSA 75-4319, subsection B2. The executive session will include the city attorney, city manager, assistant city manager, and city clerk. The open meeting will resume in chambers here at, in 10 minutes at, I just got an email, 8:05 PM.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're now in executive session.
Wow. Is that official?
Wow.
All right, we're back in session. What's that say, Jake? I'm sorry.
That no binding action was taken in the executive session.
Thank you. Okay. I guess I don't have anything else. Sorry to staff for throwing the curveball about the passes, but I just think she wasn't, I think we weren't sure what we wanted, but I think it worked out for the best. I appreciate your support on that. And with that, Mr. Dale.
I would make a motion that we all go back out into the cold this evening and that we all have a safe St. Patrick's Day, making smart decisions, but reveling in shenanigans.
And
And that
adjourn.
we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I will second all of that.
Thanks, Ms. McCutcheon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you all.